Good morning, everyone. My name is Rashmi Singh, and I'm a PhD scholar at the School of Human Ecology, Ambedkar University, Delhi, India. My research is broadly located in the issues of rangeland management and pastoral practices in the Himalayan region of South Asia. And the paper that I'm presenting today is one of my thesis chapters where I explore the implications of current conservation model in the Indian Himalaya, which is a combination of exclusionary conservation policies followed by not so ecotourism. With a focus on pastoralists and pastoral practices, I argue that this model is neither an inclusive engine of development nor does it always help in conservation. Instead, it recreates a landscape favoring the state's interest, produces pastoral exclusions, and may negatively affect both society and ecology. I built on the case of Kanchenjunga National Park, Sikkim, which is situated in the eastern Himalayas. Before I go into the specifics of my research site and findings, I would like to give you a brief background of Himalayan region and the associated debate surrounding pastoral practices. Himalayan range is one of the youngest mountain range of the world. It covers vast area of over 2400 kilometers from east to west, transcending political boundaries across 5 countries including Pakistan, India, China, Bhutan and Nepal. With over 15,000 glaciers and 8 of the Asia's largest river, it supports half of the humanity. Himalayan rangelands are multi-use landscape and given the unique topography, climatic and ecological condition, this area is best suited for pastoral practices. Livestock grazing and associated use of rangeland is pervasive across the Trans-Himalayan landscape. Pastoralism in Himalaya is an extensive production system which banks on the sparsely distributed primary productivity where pastoral communities keep large herd of animals which includes goat, sheep and yaks, and they form social nets to buffer the effect of environmental variability. Some of these pastoral communities include Gaddis, the semi-nomadic sheep and goat herders, Changpas of the Western Himalaya, which are globally known for cashmere wool production, and Mongpas, the yak herders of Eastern Himalaya. Not only the cultural diversity, but the Himalayan rangeland also holds critical importance for the biological diversity. Given the extreme climatic conditions, the Trans-Himalaya is among the least productive of ecosystems on Earth in terms of above ground graminoid biomass. Yet, Trans-Himalayan rangelands harbor a surprisingly rich assemblage of endemic species. It supports over 75% of Indian mammals, which comprises of 19% of entire world mammal species, some of which includes the wild mountain ungulates like ibex, blue sheep, and the snow leopards. As the wildlife assemblage is so unique for the conservation of these wild animals and the high altitude rangeless, a number of protected areas were created in Indian Himalayas. This was in continuation of the in situ conservation model which gathered momentum in 1970s onwards. And rangeland managers across Africa and South Asia adopted several steps like fencing of ranches, creation of protected areas, and restricted movement of pastoralists and their livestock inside the protected areas. What is striking is that ecotourism has been state's solution to conflict in these landscapes. Ecotourism in the region has been promoted by state by agencies such as World Bank as an alternative to forest conservation and is being promoted as a win-win solution capable for meeting both conservation and community development goals. Following the similar trails of conservation model, a grazing ban was implemented in the states of Sikkim, situated in the Western Himalaya. You can see here in the star, right? In the year 1998. Pastoralists who were living and herding yaks, sheep, and cattle inside the Kanchenjunga National Park were removed in the year 2002 and 2004 through physical evictions. By way of compensation, in the year 2002, the state government constituted eco-development committees around the protected areas to implement a range of eco-development and ecotourism practices. With this background, my research was set out to understand the result of grazing ban and ecotourism coupling for pastoralism of Kanchenjunga National Park. To answer the question, I conducted social surveys in the West District of Sikkim and focused on 4 village clusters situated on the periphery of Kanchenjunga National Park. Here you can see this in India, Sikkim is here, and this is Kanchenjunga National Park. And the 4 village clusters that I studied are situated here. And these were Yuksam, Darapnambu, Uttare, and Karzi. I chose these village clusters because they lie at the intersection of the question that I explore in this paper. I used mixed methods and conducted 48 semi-structured interviews, 10 in-depth key informant interviews, and 2 focus group discussions. If any one of you want to know the details of my methodology, I can just tell you in the question and answer sections. Coming to the result, to locate the key moment of grazing ban and the influence of ecotourism, I will take you a bit back in the history of Sikkim. Sikkim became the 22nd state of Indian Union in April 1975 after 300 years of being an Himalayan kingdom monarch. In late 1980s, the government of Sikkim relaxed restrictions on both national and international tourists with the intent of raising state revenue through tourism. During the 1990s, the number of tourists increased exponentially. Uncontrolled and poorly managed tourism in the Kanchenjunga National Park was resulting in pollution of the landscape and water bodies of religious importance. In the year 2000, Kanchenjunga National Park was notified as a biosphere reserve, and in 2002, eco-development committees were formed with the professed motive of initiating livelihood options for local residents. In addition, immigration from the neighboring country of Nepal, which had started before Sikkim was merged with India, continued post-merger too. To benefit from better connectivity and market linkages, a large number of yak and cattle herders from Nepal came and settled in the remote areas of West Sikkim, which is my study site, including the core and buffer of Kanchenjunga National Park. This resulted in a steep growth of livestock number inside the park, and with increasing number of livestock grazing intensified and the traditional grazing ground became short for the needs for increasing number of the animals. With the demographic changes and influence of tourism at regional level, pastoral practices and livestock numbers and composition in and around KNP, which is Kanchenjunga National Park, got influenced massively. While the traditional herding was restricted to yak and sheep herding only, immigration and tourism brought cattle, buffaloes, horses, and the hybrid of cow and yak, which is locally known as Zo. By the year 2000, Zo numbers were continuously increasing, and there was a tenfold increase in the number of yak inside the park. Yak number inside the park, for example, which were less than 100 prior to the merger, reached above 850 by the year 2002. The steep increase in number of livestock in and around KNP resulted in the implementation of a grazing ban in the year 1998. The policy implementation was based on the assumption of overgrazing, and no study was conducted before grazing ban was introduced. It was argued by the state and the forest department that increasing number of livestock population in the park was influencing the vegetation of KNP and the herbivore population. However, what is important to note that there was no study which was really conducted to show what they had argued. Following the announcement of the grazing ban between the year 2002 and 2004, there was a forceful removal of pastoralists from the protected areas of Sikkim, and more than 500 herders with more than 10,000 livestock population were removed by force. Based on the conversation with the ex-herders and the key respondents in my study area, in West Sikkim, a total of 103 herders who had a little over 200 goat, which is the temporary shelters for rearing livestock, were evicted from the park. The livestock composition, which was anyway slowly getting influenced by tourism in the region, got a major shift after grazing ban, and the traditional livestock rearing got completely wiped out from West Sikkim, especially in and around KNP. As you can see in this graph, you can see that the number of livestock has declined from year 1950 to now. However, what is important to note that the traditional rearing of sheep has declined massively, but the pack animal numbers have remained static. See, between year 2002 and now. It is also important to note that the indigenous cattle got replaced with the new hybrid cattle which were distributed under the state's hybrid distribution program between the year 1994 to 2014. So you can see that there's an overall decline in livestock numbers, but the animal composition has changed too, where the current composition is primarily catering to tourism with zoo and horses. A pastoral landscape was thus recreated to a tourist spot where the herders and their livestock were no longer allowed. This is a picture from my field days when the pack animal carrying the loads of tourists were coming back from a trip. In addition to the changes which had happened in pastoralism, I also wanted to understand what is the locally perceived social and ecological impacts of grazing ban and ecotourism in the area. Respondents mentioned a range of social and ecological influences of exclusion model of pastoral evictions and ecotourism in KNP. A total of 179 responses were recorded from 48 respondents, which included both positive and negative influences on ecology and social component of the region. The grazing ban's two most crucial impact were cultural loss and economic loss. As you can see that 22% said cultural loss and more than 18% said economic loss associated with the pastoral practices. The respondents mentioned that while the state evicted most herders from the park post grazing ban, the most influential yak herders continued to stay inside the park. And just to make a point, these respondents had the majority of ex-herders which were inside the park, and they also had conservation actors which included the NGO actors and the forest officials. Out of the total ex-herders that I interviewed who had lost their pastoral livelihoods, which were 40, only 13% were now involved in the livelihoods associated with tourism. In addition, they were all working at the lowest paying job like potters and pack animal operators. Respondents also believe that the banning of traditional rotational herdings had influenced ecology of the winter pastures. The locally perceived impacts included a decreased abundance of preferred forage species, late flowering of some of the high altitude species, and increased dominance of the less preferred pasture species. The ex-herders mentioned that many species required grazing to ensure continuity in flowering periodicity. These respondents also raised concern with the current pack animal management. At present, they said that pack animals graze in a limited area for 2 to 3 months, where the yak and sheep earlier used to graze, but they used to do it in a rotational manner. But with the pack animals, they are just left in one place during the non-tourist season, which may result in high stocking density and pressure on the rangelands. One of the most critical issues highlighted by the respondents was an increase in human wildlife conflict events post grazing ban. This was because after the removal, the ex herders had come out and they had started cultivating cash crop in the periphery of the park. And now the animals like wild boar and bear, they were coming out and they were eating their crop, which was resulting in conflict. Just So in this paper, focusing on the pastoral practices in KNP, we show how conservation, pastoral eviction, and tourism coupling resulted in a transition of traditional herding to pack animal economy and have transitioned KNP from pastoral cultural landscape to an exclusive tourist spot. The livestock composition, which was slowly being influenced by the demographic changes and tourism influence, became drastically altered post grazing ban, causing an end to the traditional pastoralism. The locally perceived adverse effect of grazing ban and current tourism practices included wide range of social and ecological issues and the emergence of new conservation challenges in increased human wildlife conflict incidents. Building on the case of KNP, we suggest that instead of curtailing local participation, which is one of the most significant critiques of environmental policies globally, the state should fully and meaningfully involve pastoralists, the primary stakeholders of high altitude rangelands, in designing and implementing conservation plans in these areas. Since most of the high altitude areas in Himalaya share international borders, the conservation and development planning could also benefit from a transboundary level planning and cooperation. Thank you.